I do want to say, Sean, you've put me in a hard position to follow Adrian's speech. That was wonderful, Adrian. Well done. And I only have a few notes in front of me because after being to so many meetings and hearing such fine rhetoric, it's very hard to know what is left to say. And I know you've all heard wonderful meetings over the weekend. But the one thing about the Socialist Workers Network and indeed People Before Profit that has stood out for me this year is the feminisation of our organisation. I think women have played an amazing role. They are emerging as clear theoretical leaders, clear leaders in activism, speakers, organisers, councillors, candidates. Women are coming to the fore in the revolutionary socialist organisation and so on. And there are many, many brilliant young women that I've met this weekend for the first time, and many brilliant young women who've joined the party this weekend, which I'm delighted to learn. But I just want to go back to the meeting on the S word that where we had a panel here. It was, again, a very feminine panel, but the meeting on the S word made me think about what words for me sum up 2018. And there are actually two R's. Repeal, which was a magnificent victory for us, having worked RBJ's arses off to get there, but it was a magnificent victory for the people of this country and has taken us right out of the dark ages. And secondly, the other R for me was Ryanair. I thought it was remarkable to see one of the most vicious faces of capitalism, not just in this country, but probably in the world, O'Leary having to kowtow to the pilot strike and to recognise the workers for the first time when he said he would never touch unions with a barge pole. It was a magnificent victory that was achieved not just here but across Europe, that gave us an example of how class struggle hopefully is to develop in the future. So I want to say hats off to the Ryanair workers. And the other two words that stand out for me, continually because I'm dealing with it in the Dáil, but also because I think it was very much a theme through everything we discussed this weekend, and that's the two C's, climate change. It's very, very important that we position ourselves both theoretically and actively into understanding that we may not be able to stop the world overheating by more than 1.5 degrees by the next 12 years, but we'll try. But part of that effort is to cut across the sort of what I would call elitism of the Green movement, and in particular in Ireland of the Green Party, that wants to push a carbon tax on ordinary workers, small farmers and communities. Not once have they argued what we need to be echoing and be very clear about. We're for a carbon tax, we're for a heavy carbon tax on the profits of the global oil corporations. We are not for strangling people with fuel poverty and for penalising people having to drive their cars in and out of work in a country that Kieran told us at the last meeting has the second worst rate of public transport after the USA. Imagine that, the second worst rate of public transport in the world. So we are not for penalising ordinary workers, farmers and others, old people living in their homes trying to heat very badly or not insulated at all homes because there's no proper retrofitting programme, no proper public transport, and they're not investing in renewables. So I think we need to just get very practical arguments and help people win those battles locally and pull the arguments back from the sort of elitism of a certain section of the environmental movement. The environmental movement, I believe, has to become part and parcel of the workers' movement, of the revolutionary movement, and that is how we will transform the situation. The last thing, I don't know about you, but for me the highlight of the weekend was the repeal video. I thought it was fantastic. I'd love to get a hold of it. You know, with the 1812 overture playing and all the photographs coming and going. And just to say, he hides his light under the bushel, but Sean played a big role in putting that video together. And Sean has played a key role in putting this fantastic weekend together. Look, he did say something there, and he's right. He doesn't do this for the crack, and I'm not in the dial for the crack. It's no crack listening to the Healy Rays and Matty McGrath and indeed Leo Varadkar talk a load of nonsense, blind the people, rob the people, act falsely in front of everybody, and destroy our land with bad legislation and with terrible public spending or no public spending policies. It's no crack at all. And I'm only in there to stand on the dung heap, as Lenin called it, and make sure that I don't fall into it along with my colleagues. None of us shall fall into it. We'll stand on it and be the voices of this movement as much as possible. But the last thing I want to say, I want to pay tribute to our councillors. I was a councillor for 7 years, and it's goddamn hard, lonely work, and they work extremely hard for very little return. And I do think they deserve a big boola bus, every single one of them, north and south. And I say that because we're facing into local and European elections, possibly a general election, but definitely local and European elections in May 2019. I'm not sure how many candidates we have, 60 or 70 running in the local elections. It's a big task for us. But again, I want to thank all of you who have put yourself forward to take that step. And you couldn't do it without your branches and your members and your networks and the people around you. So Sean was doing the calculation on those who joined, and 10% must be reached before you leave this hall. So I say to the last 8 of you, get the finger out, get the pen out, get the paper out, join the SWN and make the difference for the future.